Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over some of the best teams in version 3.25 of Gems of War. This patch didn't really bring too much, as it was one of the minier patches. As far as actual mechanics, it basically just buffed up Submerge, which is still dead content, but they made it so it can now work against Mana Burn, as well as against things like Kraken's final trait that happens to hit all enemies, so it got a little bit of a buff, but not too much. As far as the major things that ended up happening this patch, it was the addition of two really good kingdoms, the Shentang Kingdom, as well as the Bright Forest Kingdom. The Bright Forest ended up bringing Fairy Fire, which is a mechanic that does 50% additional magic-based damage to anything inflicted with it, and Shentang brought in quite a few additional enchants that finally made enchant viable on pretty much any team, since you can now mass spam it very easily off of this new kingdom. So let's go into a couple of teams. These are just some very strong ones from that have been keepable as of this patch. This isn't absolutely everything, of course. There's some of them that have been made available due to recently added troops in the current version. So right off the bat, we're going to be going with an all-dragon. I pretty much always go over at least one all-dragon team. This patch ended up bringing in about 2 or 3 over the course of it. Out of all of them, though, Glitterclaw is by far the strongest. It's basically like a Borealis from the Glacial Peak Kingdom, except the very nice thing about it is it does have extra turn potential, which is a very, very huge factor. So let's see if we can actually get it here. It converts all greens to blues and then Fairy Fires everything. Ideally, we'd be able to get that early and then just kind of go from there. I'm going to waste it here. It's not for an extra turn, but we do get some of our mana back, and then throw it straight into another Dragon Soul. And as you can see, all of our abilities now do 50% more damage. We have a 31 right here that'll absolutely wipe everything because it gets increased by 50%. And as you can see right there, the troop with 40 HP dies very easily. And that's pretty much what the Fairy Fire ends up getting used for, mainly just in spam cast, generally with full AoEs or split damages. That's able to fully utilize the fact that you're doing all of that extra damage. One other thing to note about this patch is mana drain is still so ridiculously annoying. This will be fixed next patch by the fact that there's going to be introduced the mechanic of immune to mana drain. So that will definitely be very, very nice, since there will be some troops, mainly elves and anything that currently has mana shield, will be gaining a immune to mana drain, which basically going to make Scion dead content starting next patch. But at this current moment, it is still very popular to be used in frontline. But starting 3.3, that will never be a thing again, or at least definitely not as much as it is now, that is for sure. So right off the bat here, the whole premise of this team is to use the new Queen Titania. Somewhat similar to the other troop, similar to a Queen Mab in that it's used to spam Fairy Fire instead of Freeze. In her case, it's really high damage. She has a boost ratio of 4 per red on the entire team. So right now, since we have 1, 2, 3, 4 reds in play, that is 16 additional damage for a total of 38 damage. She also, similar to a Queen Mab, gains an extra turn if there's a certain amount of gems on the board. In her case, it is 13 red, which we are 1 short of course. Feels like we are always 1 short, but we'll go for that. We also have the new Yao Gui in this team to convert out purple to red. Ideally, we'll be landing things with him as well. Unfortunately, at this given moment in time, we do not have that alignment, so we're not going to go for it. There we go. That's exactly what we need. We go for that. That gets Queen Titania back up. We throw it down again. Boom. We go right back into something else, and that's pretty much match. And there we go. Is that enough damage? Let me do that one just in case. It boosts ratios off his HP as well. Hits 2 of them, steals 4 magic, and he just keeps getting bigger and bigger as you keep spamming him. But that's also pretty decent. Ends up using the new Flame Troll. I forget if Flame Troll actually came in this time. I think it came in a bit earlier, no. But we got to use the new Flame Troll. Let's go with the full Divine, one of the easier kind of cleanse teams. This team has 3 cleanse on it, so it's actually that's kind of funny that we're up against this team now, because this team is very good against Mass Freeze, which of course has a Queen Mab. Queen Mab still very, very annoying. I don't think that will ever not be the case. Of course, she's not the greatest. The more imperviouses that get added to the game, the more useless she will be. Or at least the more good imperviouses that get added to the game, mainly because Mana Burn does nothing to impervious and Freeze does nothing to impervious, so she can be hard countered very easily. It's just most general teams that run quickly do not actually run that kind of stuff. But luckily we have Mass Cleanse. Everything on this team pretty much cleanses except Infernus. Mercy, 100% chance to cleanse. The Divine Isabela has a 100% chance to cleanse. And this troop, the Diviner, has a 1 in 3 chance to cleanse. So we have 2.3 cleanse options on our team right now. giving us many viable options. Right here, we can simply just go convert this. The red storm that we get off of getting a kill, as you can see right there, ends up making it easier for us to get alignment because it transforms all red to skulls, which basically just allows us to skull spam. Ideally, we'll get a mercy here, and we do. And we already have alignment, which I just ruined, but we made it up there, so fail. Or anti-fail. We failed and then didn't fail. And there we go. I don't believe we have the cast again. No alignment. Green to yellow and red to skull, so no extra turn there. We'll simply go for explosion, then kill it out one more time off of this. And do we have alignment anywhere? We better. Let's see. We'll throw that down. Please get a magic buff. This is really good for stacking up magic. We didn't actually get it, but it does have a 1 in 3 chance of giving a pretty competent amount of magic to all of your allies. One other pretty nice thing is you can use a mercy to give it a bunch of stats. Also, I should probably go over that a little bit more. I have been getting criticism by some people that I don't really go over these too well as far as what every single thing do. Mainly because I always do these videos kind of just as an overview of what is good. But yeah, let me go through everything real quick. This is the Dragon Guard hero class that we're using on this one hero. It's the Mountain Crusher that you get at around 37 brown hero mastery. Basically just explodes a bunch of brown for mana. Dragon Soul is going to be reworked next patch. It's pretty noteworthy. It's not having mana shield anymore, and its possession trait is completely being replaced with something else. We have no clue what, but it explodes a bunch of gems, deals damage to all enemies at a pretty competent amount. With a full dragon team like this one, it's doing 20 full AoE damage to all enemies, and it's also used as a primary soul gainer due to the fact that it gains 15 souls, allowing it to gain max capacity of souls within 3 casts and almost max within 2. World Breaker is a very strong mythic that currently has the highest mana cost of any troop in the game. It does a really high amount of explosions at a static amount, meaning it cannot be magic reduced. He will always do 18 explosions when he does it, basically as much as a Gorgolfa, and then deals a lot of damage to all enemies. And he also gains random bonus skills that can be magic and would be very helpful. Glitter Claw is a single random damage to an enemy. That's not really too relevant. The relevant part is the blue to green convert that fills up green that you can use in front of a troop in front of him, as well as to fill it up, as well as the main thing that it does, which is of course Fairy Fire all enemies. It also, similar to a Christine X, ends up enchanting when you take a red instead of the purple. Other than that, as far as for the multi-burn team, Gorgolfa, pretty standard explosion. Most people know that one. The Flame Trolls is for doubling the red +3. Queen Titania, very nice in that it has a full AoE damage plus that boost ratio, as I mentioned, automatic extra turn there, and all the Fairy Fire. Yao Guai does quite a few things too. It has the red to blue, the purple to red convert, which is pretty useful given that he also uses red himself, so he can double cast. He hits the first 2 enemies very hard, then steals their magic, meaning he'll gain 8 additional magic every single time, and then transforms all purple to red, as I mentioned, to get his mana back. He will also have immune to mana drain next patch, making him even stronger, and he keeps gaining more life every single time he takes a red, and he gets to steal it too, meaning they lose their life while he gains his. Kind of like Death, except it triggers every single red. And next one, we had the Mercy, just simple mana generation plus cleanse. Diviner, which is a simple transform, works very similar to that of an Alchemist, where it gets you to choose a gem and then converts them all into yellow. Again, noteworthy, has immune to mana drain next patch too, which is going to make it really good. And then it has a random chance of either enchanting all allies, which is 2 mana per turn. Magic increase, which can randomly trigger based on her own magic. I believe it's a actually I forget what the exact ratio is. I know it's like based on about half her mana +1, I believe it is. Would explain why it's 8. And then or it will cleanse all allies, so it does one of those 3. And Infernus, simple damage output. Pretty sure he might be getting slightly nerfed next patch, but he's really good for a Firestorm or Red Storm. Creates more reds onto the board when they fall in. He burns all enemies, making him the best burner in the game. Simply take an extra turn, you burned everything. And he has really high damage output, plus some mana generation off the explosions. And of course, Divine Isabela is basically like any of these standard double converts, except of different colors. She is one of the better ones, simply because she has a half starting mana, similar to that of the Forest Guardian, as well as the fact that she can just transform the red to skulls, which is pretty useful. That's exactly what a Shugger does pretty much. And on top of that, it also does the green to yellow, which is relevant because that's her own color. And on top of all that, it cleanses all allies, so even if you're frozen on everything or your first slot, you still get to do it. So if you're frozen first slot, which normally prevents you from extra turning on skulls, she will automatically make sure that that will not get frozen, because this cleanse triggers before it checks for the gems, so you will be able to cleanse immediately. And on top of all that, it even gets 2 random enchants for allies. As I mentioned, they've been adding a lot of enchants recently, and it has become very viable to actually use. use. So next up, let's go into the next team. This one only uses one different troop, well, Alchemist as well, of course, with just a standard transform yellow, and it also gains gold, which is pretty relevant, but we also are using Moneylender, which is very recent, just came out a few days ago, but is very powerful, has a 4-to-1 boost ratio on creating more reds onto the board, and at 32, currently, it reaches the max capacity of a 14 red gem spawn. 14 red, or 14 of any color, is a insanely high amount of gems to put onto a board, especially how easily he can reach it. He can actually reach it within one single Alchemist cast. That's all it takes. So we're going to be running that with Yagway and Goblin Rocket. Goblin Rocket is a very cheap damage and board control option. It explodes a single gem, deals damage to a random enemy, and then one to adjacents. And then main thing is the explode into a gain an extra turn is what really makes this good. It's explode too, so you gain 70% in the mana. It also has one fire link on it, so you gain additional reds as well, going into everything else. And of course, we're still using the Yagway with it. The general premise of this team is get the Alchemist up as quickly as possible, cast it once, and then basically just infinitely loop win from there. If you don't have a Yagway, this is actually the cheapest possible team out of all of them that I'm currently showing for this specific video. You can actually replace it with a Goblin Rocket, and then you're simply using a rare, a ultra rare, and an ultra rare, which is relatively cheap. And you would only need the second trait Alchemist and the, well, I guess, yeah, second trait Alchemist. No traits on him, though fully traded is helpful, and then just the first trait on Goblin Rocket, mainly because it's so cheap for such a great fire link. So right here, we do not really have much of an option. I don't know what I want to do here. I think we're going to convert out the purple. Could be a little bad. I really need that, but he'll get some yellow there. Not too big a deal. Board looking not too good, but we'll throw that down. And we do indeed miss. Not enough reds on that board. But we can simply go for the Cascade right here, get all of our Alchemist mana right back. Ideally, we have an Alchemist this time around, and we do. We just simply throw that right in, and now we can get the loop going. So here we're going to be wanting to look for purple converts. I'm pretty sure I just converted one of them out, though, but not that big a deal. Just have to keep looking for stuff if we need. We can go use a Goblin Rocket to go poke around at areas just to kind of get our mana back up and everything. We'll move that over. That actually gives us the alignment we need to go throw this down and just keep getting that rolling. Double check for any alignments that we might be able to reapply with the Goblin Rocket, keep getting the loop going back around. Actually probably shoot through some Goblin Rockets there. One of the things I do or mess up with this team sometimes is not casting Goblin Rocket enough. Don't feel bad to just constantly spam him. It is perfectly fine. Unless you specifically need him for board control at a given moment, it's perfectly fine to just spam it every single turn whenever you have it, because you're going to be gaining so much excess mana that you don't really want it just sitting there doing nothing. So right here we are going to get an Alchemist just to, again, get him back up so we can maybe do something with it. Trying to get things to align. Probably should just start throwing him down. Not really any need to keep trying to get it, since we can get his mana up so easy. All we have to do is cast this, and boom, we got his mana up to full, and then cast it again, and down he goes. But I do like trying to get to alignment. It's just kind of a waste of time sometimes, since you might end up going several turns without actually being able to get it. And do we have any more teams? And if, oh, of course, if you guys have any other ones that you want to mention, feel free to leave it within the chat as well, because this is by no means everything that is viable in the game right now. Oh, this team. Also, side note, this team right now is currently the strongest possible defend team in the game. That and the all-goblin thing. Also, this sometimes gets ran with Forest Troll, Nyx, what's that one weapon? Dawnbringer, and Queen Mab. I'm actually going to repick here, mainly because this team that we're about to show is very bad against Mass Freeze. That's not much better, but we'll go with it. Okay. But with this, it's one that I kind of underestimated when Florian first came out. Florian, very similar to that of a Nyx, which we just saw in the previous one. Nyx ends up doing a full mana drain to an enemy, and then creates a bunch of blue for every mana drained. The Florian does the same thing, except it does it for green. The main thing that's really nice about Nyx is it works with Forest Troll. With Florian, you kind of have to use it with a Giant Spider, and because the Giant Spider synergy isn't really that good, you would normally use it with just an Exploder, like what we're doing now. But she's really good at countering out anything that you might need from the enemy team whenever they start getting really high mana pulls. Of course, at this current moment in time, there is no immune to mana drain, so you can hit absolutely anything with it. That will be changing starting next patch, but at this current moment in time, it is pretty nice to have around, as well as against teams that won't have any of that protection. As you can see right here, we can go for that full 9 drain, get 9 greens on the board, that 7 drain, get 7 greens on the board. One other thing that's pretty nice about it that Nyx doesn't actually have as a mechanic is it creates a green storm whenever a whenever we actually get a kill. So once we get that kill right there, boom, we have a green storm now. So more greens will be falling onto the board, making it even easier for us to align everything. Speaking of that, we can go throw that down. And if we didn't already have full mana, that would then give our World Breaker full mana. And then we'll just go simply right into the World Breaker and then kill them out. So anyways, guys, those are some of the archived versions of teams. Always love going over these just to kind of show every single patch what is nice in every single version. But there they are. If you have any other suggestions, feel free to leave it in chat so that others can use them as well. Next patch, we'll be bringing in some interesting mechanics. It's going to be bringing in, of course, immune to mana drain, which will be for the first time ever an actual counter to mana drain. So things like Scion, Famine, stuff like that will finally have an actual counter instead of just trying to mana drain the mana drain. So we'll have the mana shield and mana protection and stuff like that on elves, and anything with mana shield, we'll be getting that. We're going to be getting power orbs, which will make it easier to actually fully ascend things. Some troops are going to be reworked or nerfed and kind of just rebalanced. I believe Dragon Soul is going to be one of them. Not quite sure what some of the other ones may be. Probably Infernus as well. As you may have seen in many of those teams, I was using Infernus or World Breaker in almost every single one, mainly because they are such ridiculously good damage sources at this moment that they're just you pretty much always use them if you happen to have them, just because they win so much quicker than other options. But anyways, guys, definitely looking up forward to 3.3 later today. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and I will see you all later. Goodbye, everyone!